Grappler Union podcast is brought to you by Fight Chicks. That's CHIX. Use the promo code UNION at checkout to save 20% off all your MMA and jiu-jitsu apparel. Go to fightchicks.com today. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Grappler Union podcast. On this episode we have Jay Valko in studio. Jay is a second-degree black belt under Eduardo de Lima and is the owner and head instructor at Valko Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Enjoy.
It ain't the 6 minutes. It's what happens in that 6 minutes.
You told me, using any technique that works, never to limit myself to one style. Keep an open mind.
We're not here to take part, we're here to take over.
In order to become more peaceful, in order for you to become better and strategize your life.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode. We got Jay Valko in the house. Thanks for doing this, Jay.
Thanks for having me.
And you also, as well as Daniel Viana, just had a brand new baby, right?
Yep, second boy for me. It's definitely going to keep me busy.
Yeah. I remember hitting you up a couple of weeks ago and you telling me, I can't do the show right now. My wife's going to have a kid any day now. And I was like, all right, okay, hit me back in a week or so. And then I reached out to Daniel, and I got the exact same message from him. He was like, I can't come on. My wife's going to have a kid any day. I was like, what the hell is going on here? You know?
Yeah, it's funny. I think his second daughter, came about 3 days before my son came. So we were liking all each other's stuff on Facebook.
Nice. So 2 boys then?
2 boys, yep.
Okay.
Yep. 2 years old and about to be 3, and then this guy. So I never really thought about it before, but now that I have 2 boys, I assume at least one of them will be into jiu-jitsu. So maybe, in 20 years I can pass off my school or something.
Right.
If it's still going strong at that time.
Absolutely. Yeah. At least one of them, right?
At least one. Hopefully both. But I'm not going to push it. But if they take to it, of course, that would be a great thing for me.
Right. And are you done after 2? Or are you guys going to see what happens?
I'd like to have a girl. We'll see how this goes. And try again and end up either with a girl or 3 boys.
Gotcha. And you're originally from Florida, right?
Yeah, well, I was born here in Chicago, and then when we were 5 years old, my family moved to Florida. That was in 1985. And then in 2001, I moved back here because I had a work opportunity. And my dad is actually a black belt, too. He trained down in Florida. After I moved up here, he kept training, yeah. So
okay.
That's if my kids get into it, it'll be 3 generations, which is pretty cool.
Very cool.
Where did he start?
We both started with Eduardo de Lima. He's a Gracie Baja instructor in Clearwater, Florida.
Okay. At
the time, he was in a town called Pinellas Park. He opened up in 99, I think, or 2000, and I started training there. Yeah, he opened in 99. I started training there early 2000. And after I moved away, my dad kept training there. And I moved up to Chicago in 2001, and I just kept training and never stopped. Once it's in your blood.
Did your father get you into jiu-jitsu?
No, I was first.
Oh, you were first.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't expect him to keep training after I moved away. Like it was something we did together every so often. But I trained for a good year, and then he would pop in once in a while, and then he got more into it after I moved away. So
how'd you get into it?
I was always into martial arts. I used to do this thing called Chung Mu Do, which was a mixture of 8 martial arts, Aikido, Kung Fu, all that stuff. Started watching the UFC, and I was like, man, what these guys are doing doesn't look like what I'm learning at all. And I was in high school at the time, so I joined my high school wrestling team, but I didn't join until my senior year. So I was a little late to the party, but one season is better than no seasons. And I felt like after 1 season of wrestling, I knew more about fighting than years of martial arts. Martial arts helped me in that it gave me a good sense of balance and flexibility and things like that. But as far as combat goes, wrestling was way better. But I graduated and had nowhere to go after that. And then I saw a flyer for Eduardo's school opening up and went over there and started when I was 19. And I'm 36 now and never stopped.
Was there any part of Aikido that translated over into BJJ, like anything?
Aikido was definitely the best one that I was doing. There are wrist locks in jiu-jitsu, but they're not the ones I learned in Aikido. Aikido, we did the Steven Seagal style wrist locks, which I actually think are pretty cool, and to stop someone who doesn't know anything that's not really resisting, like you just want to shut someone down at a party, it's like perfect.
Right.
But no, of course, in real, you're not going to do the hand over hand wrist lock on like a wrestler or something.
Gotcha. No. What's the difference between Aikido and Hapkido?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
I'm not quite sure either, but I think Hapkido has more strikes, more, hammer fists and that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So I think Aikido, at least the way I learned it, is mostly kind of wrist lock grappling style, but don't quote me on that. I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's so many variations of that.
I'm sure there's somebody yelling at their phone right now.
Yeah, these guys don't know what they're talking about. They're not true martial artists.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jeet Kune Do is what I did, and that's comprised of 20-something different martial arts. Hard to keep track from all of them, what they're all the base was from all of them.
No,
right?
Totally. But in the thing that I did as a kid, Aikido was the coolest by far, and I learned break falls and judo rolls.
Yeah.
Those are the most helpful, along with the balance and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, coming from a good base of martial arts I think it's important. I mean, just so you can kind of see, because there's a lot of jiu-jitsu practitioners who don't know any striking whatsoever, and you take them off the ground, you watch them throw a punch, you're like, well, why can't you even... the mechanics aren't even there.
Right. But
someone who comes from a martial art background, like a taekwondo or even boxing, where they know their body mechanics really well, and then put them into jiu-jitsu, it kind of ties everything together in MMA and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's also helpful, the structure of a class, being in the belt system, understanding when to not talk during practice and what kind of questions are appropriate, and like the kind of cues that come with being in a class. Sometimes people come in with a pure wrestling background. Wrestling is just totally different than martial arts as far as the atmosphere of the whole thing. So wrestlers will sometimes not kind of follow those traditional things. And I'm not a traditionalist by any sense of the word, but little things like talking when the instructor's talking and horsing around and things like that. So.
Yeah. Probably going too hard, too fast, too, right?
Well, yeah, that's often the case.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, wrestlers seem to have something to prove when they get into jiu-jitsu a little bit, right?
Well, they're just so used to that
grind.
It's more intense of a sport.
Yeah,
Wrestling's
it's intense.
One of the most intense sports in the world. I think wrestling is far more difficult than jiu-jitsu. And when you're in a sport that penalizes you for staying still longer than 1 second, how do you not, go balls to the wall all the time?
All the time, yeah. I mean, it was when Khabib weighed in at one UFC with a T-shirt that said, "If Sambo was easy, it'd be called jiu-jitsu." And I saw that and I go, I know exactly what he's talking about, because I wrestled in high school too, and it's just super intense,
Yeah, I mean, jiu-jitsu's not.
Not saying jiu-jitsu's easy, but but
it's not physically that hard. I mean, look at some of these guys. What other sports can a lightweight without the physical attributes be beating these big monsters? You know what I'm saying? The best guys in the world, the Miao brothers and Kauter. These are, I was at the No-Gi Worlds last year, and I just happened to be standing next to one of the Miao brothers. I didn't realize it until I looked over at him. These are small people,
Yeah.
I was towering over them, and I'm only 6 feet tall. I didn't realize just how small that they were. And they're beating these just big monsters. So that's not to say that's easy, but your physical prowess is not the defining factor.
Right. So how big are you in comparison to your old man? What are those rolls like?
Well, he's tall and skinny, and I'm medium height and not super skinny. But he's good. He's a casual black belt. He doesn't compete or anything.
Right.
I think he could. He's in his 60s. He would do fantastic.
Yeah.
But no, he just does it for the exercise and the sports. We roll and we have fun when we're rolling, and he can't help himself. We're moving around. He'll start laughing, thinking about when I'm a kid or something.
Right. Yeah.
Totally different kind of thing.
Yeah. But, so you guys have fun, or do you go hard with them, or?
No, we go medium hard.
Yeah. Right.
It's more flow rolling.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's good.
What kind of game does he play? Is he a guard guy? Top guy?
Yeah. I mean, he's got long legs, so he does spider guard and knee slice passes, stuff like that.
Gotcha. What about yourself?
It's changed a lot over the years. If you ask pretty much anyone else that has come on your podcast that I used to train with back when we were all at the Carlson School, whatever, they'd all say I was a guard guy. They'd all say I was spider guard, triangles, omoplatas. And that was true for the vast majority of my, I guess, career, we would call it. Now I'm heavier, and I've had some knee injuries and stuff, and my fingers don't want to play so much spider guard. So I guess I like butterfly guard a lot because it's good for gi and no gi. And I've been really working my half guard the last couple of years. And then I like being on top, pressure passing and Toriando. I still like Toriando. Like I like the fast passes.
Gotcha. Yeah.
He's working on half guard for the past couple of years. Yeah, think about that. Let's just sink that in. It's incredible. Just think about that. I'm like, what?
Well, so when I was a brown belt, approaching black belt, I had two weaknesses in my game that I think my half guard was behind, and my mount attacks were behind. I was good at getting mounts, but finishing was difficult. I'm still have trouble finishing from mount, but my mount control has gotten way better. So the last few years, I've made a very conscious effort to address those parts of my game. And it's playing so much half guard has been at the cost a little bit of my other kind of guards, but that's okay because it's easier on my body.
So how do you approach that? I mean, like, something's like not as strong as the other part, right? So what is your regimen like? You just rolling, always grabbing half guard, or like do you have something like type of like a system that you do to kind of speed that process up?
Well, it depends on who I'm going with and if I'm trying to win or if I'm trying to get better. Okay. Most matches, like when you're an instructor, you're not always trying to win. It's at least not me. I don't think it's beneficial to be that guy that has to prove that they have to tap their students all the time, you know? So with the vast majority of my students, I like to just play games, see what I'm working on and improve. But with some of my higher belts, we do real matches and I find myself sticking to the things I'm good at. Even if I pass the guard to the right the vast majority of the time. And lately in my head, I've been like, I need to pass more to the left. But when I'm going against my top guys, I can't even, I think it in my head, but I still go to the right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I have one side that I favor too, almost always.
Yeah, I haven't even got there yet, so I'm still on my back. Sorry, I'm sitting down and
working the sweep game.
Yeah, I'm working the sweep game. I'm not even at the passing game yet, which I'm excited to get because, you know, after talking to Andre, he's like, you stop. He talks. He's got that accent.
Come on, do it.
I'm not going to try to mimic his accent, but he's like, you don't like being suffocated, right? He's like, don't be suffocated. I'm going to teach you not to suffocate anymore. You're going to be on top. You're going to smash. I'm like, all right, teach me that, please.
that was so appealing to you.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to feel suffocated anymore. I hate that, like, that feeling. It's good that I appreciate it, but I want to put it on you now. I don't want to just sit down.
You've got enough of experience getting smashed.
2 years is enough. 2 years is enough.
You're good
I think
there.
it's now to switch the roles.
Right. So, Jay, you started up with Carlson Gracie Jr. when you moved back to Chicago?
So I moved to Chicago in 2001, and I was coming from Gracie Baja, so Eduardo. And I didn't know anything about the city. I didn't know anything about anything.
What belt rank were you?
I was a blue belt.
Okay.
So I first emailed the Redzovics because they were Gracie Baja at the time, and I didn't hear back from them, and until later. So I emailed them, and I was like, "Well, never heard back from." And I was working downtown, and Carlson School was in the Gold Coast, so it was walking distance from work. So I ended up going into Carlson's, and I went there maybe 3, 4, 5 months before Senior moved to Chicago. So I got real lucky. Basically, from when I moved to Chicago till he passed away, he was there running things. But it was Junior School, and Jeff Neal and Daniel Viana were the main guys there.
So how was it with working with Senior?
It was great. It was I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I mean, he taught mostly in the day class, and I trained mostly in the night class. But I still got him maybe 1 or 2 times a week plus Saturdays. And the thing about Carlson Senior, it's not so much the technique I learned from him. It was what a force he was as a coach. And I've never really seen that anywhere else. Like when I would go to compete in jiu-jitsu tournaments, I felt that I was doing it for Carlson, which was like, I never had that feeling before or since. And it was a pretty special feeling. So when he was cornering you, he didn't speak good English. It's not like he'd be telling me moves to do. He would just yell, stand up or pull guard or whatever, and you do it. But there was an extra factor that was under your ass when he was there, and it was really a special thing. And I don't think I've successfully been able to do that myself as a coach, and I think it was partially Carlson's character and partially his years of coaching.
Yeah.
But if I could somehow get somewhere close to that, that would be really great.
Wow. So you had a good bond, and he created those bonds with his team.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And especially considering, he didn't speak the same language as most of us. I lived in the Gold Coast and he lived in the Gold Coast, and he would always want to eat at Chipotle. And I remember this happened more than once. I was walking down the street coming from somewhere, and I'd hear this banging on a window, and I'd look over and he'd be sitting in Chipotle by himself. And he'd wave at me to come in, and I'd walk in and sit down next to him. We couldn't talk about anything,
Right.
So he'd just eat, and I'd sit there, and we'd look out the window, and like a pretty girl would walk by, and he'd like nod his head, and I'd nod my head. But it was cool. It was like we didn't have to talk.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So,
Right.
Now you had to roll with him and everything like that.
I mean, he wasn't really rolling.
No,
He would
time.
demonstrate moves, and he would move around a little bit, but he was, I don't know, close to 70 or something.
One of my recently I just found out. This is a weird story, but I went to a family Christmas party, and my father says, "Hey, Anthony, you remember Tommy?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." I mean, he's like my second cousin, and I'm like, "Yeah, I know Tommy," but I've always known Tommy as like a police officer. Like ever since I was a kid, I was like, "Oh, that's the Chicago police officer." No, I'm young. Tommy's 69.
Okay.
And my father's like, "Yeah, Tommy's into martial arts." I'm like, "Oh, cool." I'm thinking, what does this guy do?
Right.
No big deal. Like, oh, he's into martial arts. Cool. So I'm starting to talk to him. He's like, "Yeah, I just recently got back from Brazil." I'm like, "Brazil? What kind of martial arts are you into?"
Must be capoeira, I would guess.
I was thinking, right? So he's starting to show me these pictures, and it's jiu-jitsu. I'm like, "Wait, what? What the hell's going on here?" I'm thinking I'm like in a dream. I'm like, so it turns out he's a Carlson Gracie Jr. black belt, first degree, Tommy Giannopoulos. And,
I don't think I know him.
And I'm like,
That's funny, yeah.
how the hell?
Cousin
And so,
Tommy's a black belt.
so then I'm like, so we started talking. Basically, I left everyone at the Christmas party. We're just me and him. We're talking about jiu-jitsu the whole fucking time.
Oh my God. I feel
the
so
whole
sorry
time.
for your wife. She was like, finally, I drag him away from training or seminar or jiu-jitsu podcast and landed at the family party, and he ties up with a black belt and he's gone for the rest of the oh God.
So then I invited him to, we have a leg lock club on Saturdays at 10th Planet. And I'm saying, "Hey, Tommy, stop by, and, just, he came. And now he's coming like every week. He's like, I love his leg locks. And one thing I know is he's 69. So I roll with him and he catches me. I'm like, what the heck? I can't stop his, like, he knows what I'm doing before I even do it.
Yeah.
And he just rolls it, and I'm just triangled. I'm like, what the? I'm thinking like, oh, I'm gonna flow roll with him. No, he's in it,
it's
man.
legit.
So awesome.
He's in it, and I'm like,
69 years old,
69,
still eager
fantastic.
to learn.
Yeah. He says, because he picks up stuff like, so he doesn't know a lot about leg locks. He knows the basic concepts. But what's so neat is I'm in leg lock club with him. I'm training with him, and we're repping technique. The first 2-3 times, it's like, a little clumsy. By that 4th, 5th, 6th, he's like dialed in. I'm like, what the heck? He just picks it up so quick. I'm like, that's what I want to get to. Show him technique a few times, and then he just dials it in. His body just knows what to do at that time, and he does it. And he's leg locking people. Like, it's great.
There's not much substitute for experience.
Yeah, there isn't. That mat time is priceless.
Yeah.
Really, it is.
You guys work a lot of leg locks in your academy, Jay?
Not a lot, but some. I teach them, especially, the safe ones, the ankle lock, Achilles lock and the knee bar.
Right.
Stuff like that. I do the twisting ones every so often, especially in no-gi. I'll cover the heel hooks and the other ones. But if you spend too much time on them, people start getting hurt. That's just the nature of the beast, even if just fooling around, like you reap and you put in Dean Lister's game over position, somebody spins the wrong way and something bad can happen.
Right.
And it's the same with takedowns too. I teach a lot of takedowns, but you can't be going live from the feet every practice because the injuries pile up.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think leg locks are an important part of the game.
Yeah.
They're not a huge part of our curriculum, but they're definitely in there.
So what kind of stand-up or takedowns do you guys work? Is it judo stuff or wrestling? Or?
Mixture of judo and wrestling.
Yeah.
For sure. That was another thing that I wanted to get better at when I was a brown belt. I opened up my school when I was a brown belt, and I had a good friend who wrestled at Eastern Illinois with like Matt Hughes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I got him to start teaching, and I really want to develop my wrestling. And I would say for a guy who did not wrestle in college, I have pretty good wrestling. Like I can out wrestle most people I go with unless they were, good competitor wrestlers.
Right.
And then I do judo too. I've worked quite a bit with the Cohen brothers, R.J. Cohen especially, but Aaron. They taught me, and one of my black belts, Alan Kozovic, have picked up a lot of judo from them, and we teach it and practice it. I did my first and only judo tournament a couple years ago, and I'm not ranked or anything, but I entered the advanced division and won. But I used a lot of jiu-jitsu, so it's kind of cheap. But then, and then I have like 3 or 4 judo black belts at my school. So,
oh, wow.
And several D1 wrestlers too.
Wow.
It seems like most of the people, a lot of the students that I have are people that moved to Chicago and are looking for a new school. They're already, blue or purple or brown belts. Mm-hmm. And I've found that a lot of people with the wrestling background end up at my school because we have the most wrestlers and we do the most takedowns, I think.
Gotcha. So do you have separate classes for judo and wrestling?
No, we used to have not a wrestling class, but a takedown specific class taught by a D1 All-American, and it's just not that popular. It's too hard physically. So I'm not big on warm-ups. I don't like to do the 20 minutes of calisthenics and all that, so I'll teach a takedown as the warm-up usually.
Okay.
So, or have one of the other good takedown guys do that.
Yeah, I like that. I just started following you on Instagram a couple of weeks ago, and I saw a photo of a class that you posted. Like, you said, hey, great lunch class today. It was like a midday class, like a 12 to 1 class, but there was like over 20 people in there.
Yeah, we have we have class at lunch every day, and they're a little bit hit or miss. The gi ones are more popular than the no gi. It was a little bit inflated because it was a holiday, so that's always. Well,
was that Martin Luther King? Okay, I was about to ask, is it always like that?
But it is sometimes like that. Like Monday and Friday at noon, in particular, 10 to 20, sometimes 30.
Because your academy is pretty deep into the city, so you'd have like a lot of office workers around there and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, we get a lot of people on a lunch break, so I'm not real strict about time. If they're coming on their lunch break and they got to head back, I'm not going to give them a hard time.
Yeah, how does that work? Because you get, an hour for lunch, right?
Oh, everyone's different.
Right.
We get some guys that take certainly more than an hour for lunch.
Oh, do they? Nice, yeah.
How big is your mat space?
About 2,000 square feet,
oh, wow.
I think. Something like that, yeah.
Wow, that's good. So you have showers, facility, all that
Yeah.
stuff.
So I'm inside a personal trainer's gym called Hi-Fi Fitness. They're, I think, one of, if not the biggest personal trainer's gym in the city. And they have a big studio that I rent from them, just a closed-off room that has its own air conditioning, its own sound system. I got it all matted up, and there's mirrors all around. It's really nice setup. That's about 2,500 square feet. I leave a little bit of space for chairs and, shelves and stuff like that. And then we just bought all new mats a couple weeks ago and had a big belt promotion. It kind of surprised everyone. So we spent all Friday night, 15 hours straight setting up the new mats, painting the room, doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
When people came in the next day for the belt promotion, pretty much the whole school was there, and they were on all the new surface and everything.
Wow. What kind of mats did you go with?
I got Swain Dolomer tatami blocks, the ones that they use at the tournaments, the nice ones that everyone has.
Yeah,
so
very nice.
Before that, I had the rollout mats, but I like better the blocks now that I have them set down and everything.
Nice.
Yeah, is your school? Somebody told me that your school is at the location of the original Carlson Gracie school.
Yeah, so before I ever went to Carlson Gracie, they were in the room that I'm in now, which is pretty crazy. So it was some other kind of gym, maybe a Gold's Gym or something, I don't know, and they rented from it. And I only found that out after I moved in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was in there, and then somebody who was way old school that trains with me was like, "Man, this is where we used to train at Carlson." So I was like, "Wow." So yeah, it's just funny, funny coincidence.
And when did you say you opened your gym?
2007.
2007.
Yeah.
What did you do for work before that?
I moved to Chicago to trade futures. I was working at the Board of Trade, trading in the pits, which are pretty much all gone now.
Yeah.
But I moved here in 2001. I did some clerking and some other jobs down there until about 2004. Started trading then. Did that for 3 years. And then 2007, I had the chance to open the school. And I took it, and I was still kind of trading on the side. But then there's this little market meltdown thing that happened.
Yeah.
And I was trading the Federal Reserve interest rates, so Fed funds rates. And basically, after the crash, the Federal Reserve lowered the interest rates and didn't move them for 9 years. So thank God I had the school.
Right. So were you like one of those guys that were actually in the pit, like
yelling and hand signals?
So what is that like down there? I mean, what the hell is going on?
Well, so you ever see the movie Trading Places?
No.
Okay, well, it's a great movie with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. It takes place in the 80s, but the scene where they do all this futures trading, and I did not understand that movie until I became a futures trader, and then I watched it again, and I was like, oh wait, now it's still starting to make a little bit of sense, you know. But basically, you're, geez, I don't know how complicated we want to get, but a futures market is you're producing some good, and you don't know what it's going to cost in the future.
Okay.
So if you're growing corn, what if you buy a bunch of seed now and the price of corn goes down in 6 months? You're going to take a loss on it, right?
Right.
So you enter the futures market in the opposite position. So if it goes down in real life, you can make money in the futures market to protect yourself.
Okay.
So what they're doing is they're transferring their inherent risk into people like me and traders who are willing to take on that risk in the hopes of scalping a little bit of money here and there as we trade it amongst ourselves.
Right.
So that's big. I mean, that was, the smallest fish in the sea down there.
Yeah.
I was 23 years old and took out a loan from my uncle to start trading. And then pretty much when I started trading, it slowly started going online. So I was like the first to leave the pit and just trade from my bedroom.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, that's how I ended up back in Chicago. And
Like, is it super competitive in the pit? Like, are there guys like shoving and talking shit and all that?
Oh yeah, for sure. They try to intimidate each other. Big
And were you
time.
thinking like, dude, I'll choke you out right now, you know?
Yeah, so since I was such a small fry, I didn't get intimidated too much, but people would try to yell at me and stuff. And yeah, that's one of the great things about jiu-jitsu is that confidence that, like,
Right.
Okay, so some wealthy older guy who likes to be a bully is yelling at me. It affected me zero.
Right.
You know? Even to the point, like, not only that I wasn't intimidated, but it didn't even get me riled up.
Yeah.
Like that's the big thing. Most people, when a fight starts happening or people get in their face, they get real riled. Even if they don't feel in danger, they feel like they have to prove something.
Right.
The adrenaline starts to flow.
Right. Yeah. The
exactly.
manhood is being challenged and
Right,
all that
right.
stuff. And I didn't even feel that.
Yeah.
So that's a nice way to walk around in life.
We just had kind of a similar situation like that. We just got back from Utah snowboarding, and we were checking in to get our lift tickets in the morning, and the lady kind of messed up the order or something.
Well, her machine
machine broke.
didn't work, broke, and we were there right when the gate opened, basically.
Okay.
So we would have been like right in line, like first. And yeah, so she messed up. We don't care. So we got in the line, and we were like, maybe like 30 people in, probably, right, Paul? You would say that?
Yeah.
And we're just content. We're like, as long as we're not outside the gate area where there's like 100 people in front of us, we're cool. So we're just chilling there. And then the lady came up to us, and she's like, hey guys, it's my fault. I'm gonna walk you to the front of the line. And I'm like, all right. I thought that was like something they did.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's just, we messed up. Here you go. Come to the front of the line. And we didn't think anything of it, right? I mean, so we walked to the front of the line. They opened the gate. And our whole thing was, it was like 8:30 in the morning, right? It was like, we're like, want to get breakfast. Like, we didn't really care, like, just to jump to go down the hill, like the fresh powder or whatever, nicely groomed. So we're like, we're just looking to go get some breakfast. And we know at the top of the mountain, they have this cafeteria. So I asked one of the guys who I thought worked there initially, right? I'm like, hey, I go, they serve breakfast up at the top? And he's like, no, man, you gotta go over. What do you say, Paul? He's like, no, you gotta go inside or something like that to me.
Yeah, something like that. But like, the lady brought us to the front of the line and just kind of walked away and never like told anyone like, hey guys, I messed up their order.
Right. Yeah,
they were waiting on because of me. So, I brought them to the front of the line. She just kind of like walked us to the front and took off. And there was a couple of locals there that were like, hey, what's going on here? Yeah. They're like, nothing. We kind of got held up over in the counter. And, the staff member told us to, come up to the front, and these guys just started talking mad shit.
Yeah.
They're like, why don't you go to the back of the line? Why does everyone else have to buy? And I was just like, look, man, I'm just listening to the staff here,
Right.
this and that. Yeah. But they just kept going on and on about it. And I'm like, well, this is a situation I would have walked away from, but it was kind of unique because we were like in line. It's like, you can't walk away from it. Like, we're trying to catch a ride to the top of the mountain here. But like the one dude that was like, he just kept bickering and wouldn't shut up. And he was drinking like a Coca-Cola.
Yeah. 8:30 in the
I'm
morning.
like, bro, you're drinking soda at 8 in the morning? Like, I'll wreck your whole crew. Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Those guys had no clue.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I didn't know.
Zito looks to me and he goes, "Is it too early to choke somebody?"
Yeah.
These guys were annoying, man. They were like
really
Utah
annoying.
mountain trash or something, you know?
They were a little. I didn't understand like what the big deal was. Like I'm like we're all getting up there,
Right.
It's a huge mountain.
Well,
Yeah.
the sense of
Big deal.
security that you can walk around with, knowing you can take care of yourself, is pretty nice. Even
is.
if you never have to, and you know you don't have to use it for any purpose, like to be a bully or intimidate
Right,
people.
right.
But just being able to walk around and be like, somebody gets in my face, I don't have to worry about it.
Right.
You know, it's a nice feeling that's most people don't possess.
Right,
Definitely.
for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big thing that I advocate a lot is like why you should know jiu-jitsu, just for that
Right.
aspect of it. Not that you're going to go out there and start fights, but just knowing that you have the confidence to take care of yourself. You know, like
Yeah.
you said, it's
Not
very
that
true.
you ever ran into that, Jay. I mean, you're a buff dude with a huge beard, you know, like
Well,
who's
so
messing with you?
Well, in my experience, I mean, you should see some of my friends. They look twice as manly as I do, and I've been out at bars where they're the ones that get stepped to the most. It's like maybe they make people feel insecure, uncomfortable, or whatever, and it's not terribly uncommon to see that, but it usually dissolves pretty quick.
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, everyone looks for the big guy.
Right.
They don't want to pick on the real little guy because then they don't look that good.
Well, it's a lose-lose for them.
It's a lose-lose,
Yeah.
right?
Right,
So they go
yeah.
for the big guy, like, oh, he was obviously too big. Or if he gets the big guy, then he looks like a hero.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So it's not terribly uncommon. Like I don't go out much these days, but in my past of going out, the manlier and bigger the guy is doesn't mean that he's not messed with.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole trader scene was that's supposed to be like a big party scene, right?
Yeah, I never got into that, and luckily with jiu-jitsu and stuff, I didn't. People would always invite me out because the floor would close at 2, and they'd always go out drinking. These are like dads. They would go out and do drugs and drink at like 3 p.m.
Right.
You know, but I would go to jiu-jitsu practice in the afternoon, and I wasn't interested.
Yeah.
You know, I was too busy doing my own thing, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you ever fight MMA?
I didn't. Nope. I had a mild interest, and then I told myself once I get my black belt, maybe I'll do it. And then by the time I got my black belt, I wasn't interested. You know,
Oh, really?
It's one of those things. If you're going to do it, you should really have a burning desire to do it.
Yeah.
And for me, there was really no reason except a mild curiosity. So I just never pursued it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any recreational activities or hobbies that you do outside of jiu-jitsu?
Oh, sure. I read a lot. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I make a goal of reading 50 books a year.
Whoa.
I usually get through that.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah,
Hang on. Let me do the math on that. That's like
about once a
almost
week.
once a week.
I mean, a lot of them are audiobooks, so that's the trick.
Right,
I
right.
listen to one on the way here. I'll finish it on the way back.
Okay.
Stuff like
Yeah.
that. But I'm big on reading, and then I have been kind of working on getting a podcast going. It's kind of weird when you're a jiu-jitsu instructor. You have this really weird life where I teach 2-hour blocks 2 to 3 times a day, and then I
Yeah.
have these several hours in between, right?
Right.
And they're not long enough to really do something. Like I can't have a 3-hour break and drive somewhere and take a class or do something else or whatever. So I'm trying to fill those times with things that make me a better person, but they're weird times to fill.
Right.
So that's part of the reason I read a lot and try to learn new things. I did a few podcasts just on my own, and I'm planning on continuing that. Just with the second kid, it's really screwed everything up for me as far as that goes. But part of that is just self-improvement exercise to explore. And so yeah, I like that. And I haven't done it in a long time. I can play drums. I used to be in a band when I lived in Florida.
Nice.
One of my students is in a pretty good like hard rock band, and I've been trying to finagle a way to jam with him and stuff, but he lives out in the burbs, and it's probably not realistic.
Right.
But in my fantasy land, I'll play drums with him and be in his band.
Nice. Yeah.
What is the like the situation? Because I've heard other people in jiu-jitsu say about that self-improvement, like looking to always self-improve. What do you think it is that correlation between jiu-jitsu and the need to like feel like you just have to keep improving yourself, like outside of just jiu-jitsu, but like your own like mind and yourself and satisfaction of life and stuff like that, and that whole goal and stuff like that? What is that? Because you don't hear like, I mean, maybe I don't listen to a lot of basketball players or football players or people in other type of sports or soccer, like talk about like, oh, I want to, self-improve and I want to, I mean, I don't hear that, but I always hear that with jiu-jitsu artists, whether it be, blue belts, white belts,
Right.
purple, brown, black, but it's always that constant like evolution. Like I have to improve myself,
Well, it's kind of weird. So I guess I'll take the politically incorrect answer and say that I think jiu-jitsu is more talk that up than actually do that, jiu-jitsu instructors and people. So
Okay.
I think that as the role of an instructor, you kind of have that martial arts guru thing going on, and instructors want to teach lessons that are beyond their capacity to teach, and they want to be seen a certain way and stuff like that. But when you actually break it down and say like, what are you doing to improve yourself, it usually stops with jiu-jitsu or yoga or lifting weights, physical stuff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think my physical stuff is taking care of itself with jiu-jitsu and the other working out I do. So I want to improve my mental stuff. And that's part of the reason I read. And also I'm self-employed. And so I try to read about business and investing because nobody's going to teach me how to do that, you know? So that's a big part of it too, is just to make sure I have a nice life for my family and everything. So I think the instinct to self-improvement is there for a lot of people, but it's probably a little bit one-dimensional for a lot of people. But maybe I'm wrong. It's not like I go around and survey everybody and that's what they're doing.
Right. Well, I think jiu-jitsu attracts that type of person anyway. The constant like self-improvement guy,
Right. You don't start a sport like jiu-jitsu because you're completely satisfied with everything in your life.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a selection bias thing going on.
Yeah.
Do you think sometimes instructors can get a little like clouded in just like their everyday and stop like that process of going through to becoming like a better guru or a better teacher, better coach and stuff like that? Do you think sometimes it maybe like clouds their judgment, like they think they're doing something really, really well, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, you haven't grown as much when it comes to like.
Well, I'm not sure I understand the question exactly, but correct me if this is not what you're talking about. I think that the feedback that jiu-jitsu instructors get is skewed. So there's students by the nature of the hierarchy of jiu-jitsu, and they're telling people what to do. Like, okay, now everyone do 10 arm bars. Like you're kind of in a command situation. You don't get a lot of pushback of your opinions and a lot of pushback of things that you might be doing in life. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
So like one thing about a lot of jiu-jitsu instructors, and I'm certainly guilty of this, is maybe oversharing personal opinions on Facebook, just getting out there and just, this is what I think, and I've done this so many times. And because we have this feedback where we think people care what we think. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When you got a room full of 50 people that are listening to what you have to say, I think it can inflate our egos a little bit for sure.
Really? Yeah. So. Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to get at.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if everyone will think that, but that's what I think.
So like your new students in the gym, how long will you wait until you allow them to roll?
5 minutes.
Oh, really? Right away, day one?
Yeah, I mean, so normally the way I teach a class, so I do a fundamentals class and I have regular class.
Yeah.
So I encourage people to come to a fundamentals class. And in fundamentals class, a shorter class, 45 minutes. I usually do 20, 30 minutes technique and then 15 minutes of positional drilling. So like this week I'm teaching basic back attacks, how to do the rear naked choke and some gi chokes and stuff like that. So I run through that. Excuse me. And then I'll say, okay, now we're going to start on the back. You have 1 minute to try to get the sub or stay on the back, 1 minute to escape. So if it's a guy's first class, I'll be like, hey, come over here with me and watch for a minute. I'll have a couple rounds and I'll explain to them what's happening and everything. And then I'll be like, you want to give it a shot? And they'll usually kind of hesitantly be like, oh, yeah, I guess. So then I'll put them with a person I know has really good control, like a purple belt, that's going to talk them through it. Like they'll wrap their arm around the neck, be like, okay, now grab my wrist before I can do the choke. Put them with like 2 or 3 guys like that, and then that's pretty much it. And then I usually do that for their first 3-4 fundamentals classes, and then they're on their own and they're doing just fine. And same thing if they start sticking around for the regular class, I'll say, all right, now we're going to go to sparring. It's up to you how much you want to do. Just whoever you go with, tell them like it's your first or second class. And I'm real big on my students knowing how to be with new people. That's like a huge factor to me. So I say in their heads, you know, if you're bigger or more experienced, you have to be appropriate with your partner. And I trust my guys very much.
Yeah.
How many students do you have?
Maybe 130 or something like that. Nice. It's
great.
Yeah, it's a little hard to keep track of because I have different tuition ways of collecting, you know, but I would say in the approaching 150, but a little bit less.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was on your website before you came in. We do a ton of show prep here. I was on your website for 5 minutes, and then we heat the mics up. You have tons of classes available. I mean, I think there's like one day you got 6 classes, and the rest are like basically 4 or 5.
Yeah, we have 7 days a week classes, 2 to 3 classes a day. If you throw in boxing, 3 to 4 some days.
Wow.
I teach most of them, but not all of them. So I'm typically there. Let's see. Sorry, give me 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. About 15 classes a week I teach.
Wow.
And then other guys teach maybe the remaining 5 or 8 or whatever it is. I have 5 black belts and a couple brown belts that help me run class. I was out all last week because of the baby, and I let them run it, and I have complete confidence in them and everything.
You have kids classes as well?
No kids.
Oh, no kids.
Nope.
Okay.
All adults. We might do kids now that all the instructors have kids and are starting to have more kids.
Right.
One of my guys, TK Oates, he's one of my black belts. He has a daughter that's approaching the age when jiu-jitsu might be a possibility.
What age do you think is good?
Well, depends on who wants to teach it. If he wants to teach it, she's like 4 or 5 or something,
Okay.
or whatever. So if he wants to teach a kid's class that young, then he can do it if we can get enough interest. I would be more interested in teaching older kids. But I say that now when my kid is, he's almost 3. When he turns 5, I might totally change everything.
Yeah.
But we're also downtown, so it's a different kind of market.
Yeah.
We have a lot of professionals, and we're inside a high-end personal fitness gym. So I don't know that we would have a lot of interest in a ton of kids, and I don't know that if it's the right fit.
Right.
But I'm certainly open to it if there's enough demand. I get emails and stuff asking about kids programs.
Well, does your school compete a lot?
We do, yeah. Yeah, I encourage competition. I'd say half our guys compete, half don't. I don't make people do it or anything, but I like it when people compete. I want to do the Chicago Open. I would like us to win the no-gi. We've gotten second place twice, I think, and third place once. So I'm going for first place at the Chicago Open no-gi in April, and I don't think we have a big enough team to win the gi. Some of these schools combine 5 locations, have 180 people, so, but no gi we can win with maybe 50 or 60.
Oh, that's how the team, you're talking about team
The team,
wins.
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
This is going to be, Paul and I, we're going to be competing in the Chicago Open. We're
Okay.
gearing up for it. And we're going to, do the gi. This is going to be new for us.
Getting crazy, huh?
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. It's nice. I mean, I've been training now for a few weeks in gi, and it's different.
Yeah.
I feel like a white belt in the gi, even though I know some things. I still find myself like, when you're a white belt, you're basically defending most of the time. You're not really attacking as much. So I find myself like doing that, like going into, I'm not getting submitted, but I'm also not submitting.
Yeah.
And because I'm just trying to get comfortable with, like, instead of grabbing a collar tie, I can grab the gi, I can grab their actual, clothing. So I'm trying to figure that pattern out so I can start attacking and doing what I like to do.
It's easier to go from gi to no gi than the reverse, for sure.
Yeah.
No gi, when you switch from gi to no gi, you just got to get used to not grabbing. But to switch from no gi to gi and get used to grabbing is really weird because you got to figure out all the grips.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I love both. I've always done both. I think everyone should do both. Maybe start with the gi so you can learn how to not rely on your physical attributes so much. But
yeah, that's what we're learning too. Just sitting down talking to high level guys like you. I mean, they all say the same thing. Got to do both. Got to do both.
Well, and a reason that nobody ever talks about why you got to do both is that if you ever open your own school, all the money's in the gi. People say, if you did a survey, they'll say they like no gi better. But when you look at attendance at pretty much all schools, it's all gi.
Yeah.
So it's
I could totally see
Why
that.
do you think that is? I mean, for someone new coming in who doesn't know the difference between either, why do they gravitate towards the gi?
I think because it's less disgusting, for one thing. The sweat on sweat,
Right.
It's a barrier of contact. I think also the hierarchy with the belts makes it easier to run a class and to know what's happening and who's going to help you out and who to watch and things like that.
It's true. I can see that. Yeah.
And then there's something about the gi and the belt that is more discipline. Like, people show up on time to my gi classes more than my no gi classes. And I think that there's an attitude that comes with like gearing up. I'm not big into bowing, but if people want to bow, like there's something to that makes things more formal.
Yeah.
Even at where I consider our school probably the least formal school there is, it still is a added thing.
Yeah, there's uniformity with the gi, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
everyone's
Yeah.
wearing the same thing.
Yeah, and I think it just makes people feel more comfortable.
I can totally see that. I mean, it's definitely warmer.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Well, and for learning purposes, you have to, like I said, you have to not rely on your physical attributes so much. So it's just kind of like fun to learn how to use the gi.
Yeah.
So
you teach 15 classes a week. So I mean, you're at the gym a lot. I mean, is that because you're so passionate about it, or you feel like, well, this is my business, I need to be there, I need to be working it?
it's the second one.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I love jiu-jitsu. I'd be doing it anyways. If I won the lottery, I wouldn't stop.
That's yeah, that's something Anthony taught me, because he deals with a lot of restaurant owners, and he said the guys who succeed are the guys that are there and work in their business.
Yeah.
Guys who go into business for themselves, looking to kind of take it easy, they always fail.
Yeah, no, it's your business. I mean, this is what I do for a living now, so I can't mess it up. I got a family, and I got to make sure I'm selling a good product, and I'm responsible for it. And for better or worse, I put my name on the door because I couldn't think of what to name the school.
Yeah,
and now that's forever connected to me personally.
It's a cool name,
and
Valko.
Yeah,
it
it's
works.
Unique. Yeah,
definitely works.
So, and then, I mean, like I said, if I won the lottery, I'd still do jiu-jitsu, but instead of twice a day, I'd do it once a day.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, I would like to get to a point where I can pass off the teaching responsibilities to more of my black belts.
Right. And then read 100 books a year.
Yeah. But then, yeah. And students come more when I teach, you know, and maybe it's because I'm the first one that they met, or I don't know, but it's just when I go out of town, attendance drops. So.
Right. You know what I think it is? I think it's because people are constantly thinking about like being seen from the guy that hands out the promotions.
I could see that.
Yeah, that's certainly part of it. What was nice with this most recent belt promotion I did is I really relied more on my other black belts for input. We had a little email going on with who's a definite, who's a maybe. We discuss things over. Because as the school grows, you have to delegate more of the teaching responsibilities. And
so do they have to test for their belt?
No,
or is this,
no
test, testing,
no.
nothing like that.
No, we just watch. Doing well in competition helps, of course.
Yeah.
But no, when I try to spar with most of my students, and I try to evaluate their game, see where they're working. And when I know belt promotions coming up, I watch everyone who I think is getting close, a lot closer, and get feedback from other higher belts and stuff.
Yeah. How many times a year do you promote? Once or twice?
Well, so I used to do 2 big belt promotions a year. I've dropped it to 1 usually, but I'll give out belts randomly when it's obviously time.
Oh, really? Okay.
So like if there's a big class with like 40 people in it and someone's getting close to purple belts, and I've been thinking about it, I'm not going to make them wait till Christmas when I do the next promotion, so I'll promote him then. But if I'm going to give out black belts, especially, I'll have a big thing where everybody gets together.
Right. Now, how long, people ask me like, oh, you're a blue belt now. How long did it take to get? I said about 2 years, It's like, oh, is that normal? Like every 2 years? I'm like, well, you can say that, but I've known brown belts that are like, 4 or 5 years in the game and still not a black belt. So how do you see that? Like, how does that work when you hit that brown, all of a sudden it kind of slows down a little bit and to get that black?
Well, everywhere is different, when people join and they're like, how long does it take to move through the belts? I usually tell them average 2 years per belt, probably, maybe white a little less, blue longer. I was a blue belt for 4 years. I think blue belt's the hardest one to get through. Brown belt, sometimes people fly through it. Sometimes it's a little longer. It's always weird when you're going to give out a black belt, because I have a number of brown belts now and some closer than others. And like I said, I like to have a big thing when I'm going to give out black belts. But if I'm going to
How
promote,
about a promotion live right here on the air?
yeah. But if I'm going to promote some brown belts and not others, it's not like I can do it just at Christmas time the way I normally do it, because then some guys will be 4 years away just based on the hierarchy of where they are compared to the other brown belts. Does that answer your question? I don't know if it...
Well, I was just wondering that, you know, when, like, how do you evaluate, like, the higher rank, like, when you're a brown belt, like, how's that ranking to black? Like, what pushes you over that, like, from someone who can kill it in 2 years or 8 years? Like, what's the differential there? Are they just not showing up anymore when they're brown? Like, what makes them, what takes that, what it take to get a black belt at that step?
Yeah, that's tough. You want someone who's training hard for it. You also want to, like, are they as close to as good as they're likely to be? Like, by the time you get to black belt, yeah, sure, you're going to get better, but the law of diminishing returns, right? You're going to get better much slower compared to what the rate you were getting better from white to blue or blue to purple. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So when somebody's like at their best they've been and maybe are going to be with age and everything as a factor, that helps a lot.
Does personal life fit in all that? Like, are they a good person? Or have they grown, you know, in do you look at that? Like, because I'm at, when you have someone who's been with you for 6-7 years, you kind of know them. It's not like you're not hanging out with them or you don't know anything about them, but you kind of like factor that in. Like, personally, are they a good person, or is this guy just, you know, is he a dick, or is he like, you know what I'm saying? Is he just like,
well, right. So to some degree, so most of the time, I'm sure people have talked about this before on here, but your real personality comes out on the mat, right? Like if you're a dick, you're going to spar aggressive and try to hurt people and everything like that. And those people usually don't make it to brown, let alone black. So that kind of thing factors in. I mean, I'm not going to like factor in their private life.
Sure.
I'm not going to ask them like, hey, are you loyal to your wife?
Right. Of course.
You know?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, are they good teammates? Are they helping with the team? Are they good teachers? I try to, when I go out of town, I don't just go to one black belt to teach all my classes. I spread it around all the brown belts so that they all get the opportunity to teach and things like that. And are they good representatives of jiu-jitsu? Are they going to go to a different school and not know how to shrimp? And like that's a real silly example, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it's hard. It's subjective. There's no one. I don't have a checklist that they all have to meet or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, like Tate Fletcher said, you know, before he goes, I don't know. He's like, I don't know how someone could be, you know, 19 or 20 years old and be a black belt. He goes, I just don't. He's like, I think you should be also a black belt in life. You know,
that's hard because that's out of the scope of an instructor. Like, you know, I do my thing and I hope that I'm a good influence on people, but it's not my job. Like, one thing that always annoyed me so much is when an instructor gets up at the end of class and talks 20 minutes about honor and respect, and then they don't live it in their life, which is so very common, you know, and they're trying to teach lessons way outside the scope of jiu-jitsu, martial art. Like, it's good to encourage virtuousness, but I don't know. I can't stand the hypocritical, preachy instructor who just doesn't live it.
Right.
Which is very common.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, having been around a number of instructors, more than half, I would say, are selling you nonsense when they talk like that.
Right. But do you think they know what they're doing and they're just like, that's their business?
Well,
like their business is like, you know, like just that like preacher who does those, like, you know, churches.
I think most of those guys are trying to convince
themselves.
themselves.
You think so?
Yeah.
Part of it is lying to themselves. Part of it is part of the product that they're selling.
Right.
They're selling the traditional martial arts, and some students are looking for a father figure when they start jiu-jitsu. They want someone who's going to preach to them and talk down to them and tell them what to do, you know, and that's not the way I am. Like,
but like a mentor is not a bad thing.
No, mentors are great, but the mentor should live what they're mentoring. That's, you know,
totally
see what I'm saying?
Right.
And so if somebody comes up to me and is asking me questions about it, life and stuff, I'm happy to talk to them, but I'm not going to address the whole class about how they should live their life. But then I had another point that I forgot. It'll come back to me.
That's all right.
Do you watch a lot of jiu-jitsu? Do you watch tape on guys or anything?
Medium.
Yeah.
Really, no.
Yeah.
I'll watch some. I mean, I'll fast forward through a match until I see that there was a switch of position, and then I'll back up to see when that switch happened. But I can't sit there and watch a 10-minute match,
right?
Back, several matches or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the sport in some sense. I like to see who beat who, and I like to see what techniques are coming on. But no, I'm not really.
I mean, at this point now, because there's so many UFC events, I'm fast forwarding through a lot of those fights.
Yeah.
Before I used to watch like every fight.
Oh yeah.
And now they're like every weekend. You're like, I just can't get through it fast enough. So you got to fast forward. You just.
I know. Yeah. I found that when it comes to UFC, I'm happy 90% of the time to just check SureDog and see who won.
Right.
I like the drama of who beat who and how's everybody ranking. BJ Penn had his unsuccessful comeback, but it was kind of exciting. How's he going to do? Blah, blah, blah. Right. But I wasn't going to watch it. I didn't care. I just wanted to check the results.
What'd you think about that BJ Penn fight?
Well, I didn't watch it, but I knew he was going to lose.
Yeah. I think everyone kind of had an idea.
I didn't even know who the other guy was, but I still knew he was going to lose because BJ is such a good fighter, but he's been flat for years.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him have a good performance since he knocked out Hughes, I think.
Yeah.
Years ago.
Edgar beat him, twice?
Oh no, his fights with Edgar were okay though. Like if I remember correctly, but they all blend together to me at this point.
But Edgar's a smaller guy. But Yair Rodriguez is a giant.
Okay. He's a Chicago guy. He trains at LCCT.
Okay, no, I never heard of him, but I wasn't shocked when I read online what happened.
Yeah, he got tuned up.
I watched the countdown and I'm like, this guy is a monster. I'm like, good luck, BJ.
Well, BJ's still pretty young, I guess, right?
I think it's the mileage, though.
Your age, isn't he? He's got to be
around. I'm 36. He's got to be something close. But I wish more fighters would do what GSP did and just dip out on top.
Nothing wrong with that.
They talk about him coming back, but I wouldn't if I were him. I really, really wish Fedor dipped out when he was on top. I mean, it wasn't worth him losing his legacy, to have a couple small fights in some venues. And something happens, like I don't even do MMA and my body is way slower and more beat up than it used to be just from jiu-jitsu, and I'm way heavier. It's harder to lose weight. I can't imagine cutting weight to get to
45 you got
for year after year. So I know it's in your blood to be a fighter, but I think most people stay in too long in boxing too. They just stick around too long.
And then Anderson Silva, he's coming up with a fight against Derek Brunson.
Oh, is he fighting again?
Oh my God, Derek Brunson. These guys are fighting like young killers.
Yeah, but then on the flip side, the reason I never did MMA is I don't have that fire I was talking about.
Yeah.
These guys have that fire. So how can you keep them away from it? Right. But I just think from a strategic point of view on the risk reward, at some point in your early mid 30s, you got to really think smart about it.
I mean, I like to see it like Submission Underground.
Yeah.
Who's doing Chael Sonnen's promotion.
Okay.
They're putting together these not older, but like people who retired or want to just do jiu-jitsu matches. I mean, they had John Jones versus Dan Henderson.
Oh, that's what that was. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
That's great. And this sport jiu-jitsu that's becoming like a UFC thing, like with the fight to win and the thing like that. That's great, because then now people that want to compete, they want the lights, they want the fans, they get it, but they don't have to get hurt.
Exactly. Yeah, so, I like to see Anderson Silva fight in playing jiu-jitsu. I don't want to see him get punched in the head anymore.
Not anymore.
No, there's no reason for that. He's 40. He's my age. He's 41 years old. Come on, guy.
Yeah,
that's it. Go out and like GSP. I love to see GSP fight jiu-jitsu. A lot of these guys, they say, when they, when you hear Rogan and Mike Goldberg, say, oh, they're a jiu-jitsu black belt, they're this. But sometimes in their matches, you don't see that. You don't see their, unless you're Damian Maia, then you see it. But, some of these guys, they'll wrestle them to the ground, but you don't really see, a whole lot of like, jiu-jitsu technique because they want the knockout.
Yeah.
But now let's put them in jiu-jitsu matches and see. I mean, I think a lot of those big names could, people would buy the pay-per-views. I don't see why they wouldn't.
That was the most exciting thing about ADCC. Like, 8 or 10 years ago or whatever, when it was like Mark Kerr and Mario Sperry, and that's when GSP did it and Matt Hughes did it, and it was like you're the guys in the MMA world doing exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now there's still that certainly happens, but also pure grapplers are a lot more of a thing too. So, but yeah, if money's not a problem, I don't know why you would keep fighting, but that's me. I'm not these guys.
Do you think now that they're testing are they testing IBJJF and
Just at the Worlds, I think.
just at the Worlds, they're testing for steroids, now it's going to be
Maybe
like,
the
oh,
big
great.
shows. All the big shows.
Now those UFC guys are probably not going to.
Although I just saw an Instagram post of Buchecha, and it's
Dude,
like, are you not
know.
competing this year?
These guys, I mean, come on.
Did you see that too?
Yeah, that
Jay?
was unbelievable. It looks like a comic book character.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the guy, whatever, but these guys that are doing the Worlds are juicing for sure.
They're huge.
Like, because they don't test all of them, they do a random test.
Oh, it's a random thing.
I
Oh, okay. I thought it was like
I think
everyone.
so. They can't afford to test all the black belts. So I think you do a random draw, but don't quote me on that. And then if you get busted, I think you get suspended or something, but nobody's going to remember that. They're going to remember that you beat the guy. So you're going to get the glory,
Right.
and then you get suspended for a time, but you just do a different promotion
Yeah.
or whatever. So I think it nets out on the risk reward benefit. It's probably worth it.
I mean, Guy Mendez got pinched. I think they actually caught him.
Okay.
Did they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So it's too bad, but it's rampant in our sport and in all sports. It really is.
Yeah.
Just what are you going to do?
Do you talk about that with your team?
No. I don't do steroids. I'm rocking the dad bod. I think anyone look at me and not guess that I do steroids. And I have never done them. I would not do them. I'm sure that there's guys around the gym that do. I don't know, but I just don't know why. What's so important that you're gonna risk different aspects of your health or do something? I guess dishonorable be the word if you're competing. I don't know. It's just not for me.
You kind of cheating yourself, right?
I would think so. I would feel less good about winning a gold medal because I was, had testosterone blowing out of my ears from steroids, and I was able to ram through people. But different people are different. I'm a regular kind of guy. I'm a casual guy, so I don't feel that.
To quote Kyle Terra, technique conquers all, right?
Right.
That's what it is.
Well, hopefully, but all things being equal,
Right.
that matters too. If you have the same technique, bigger and stronger is
always a factor.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's very true. Like, when people say that, you can fight a bigger guy because you're little. Yeah, but if that big guy knows the exact same thing I do, it's gonna definitely play a role.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, since I've, most of my competing days, I was in the 180s range. I'm about 245 now, and my style's way different than it was then. I mean, as far as I always liked passing guard, but now I can lay on people and they can't move. It's way different than it was, and sometimes
Your game has evolved. You don't have to do
it's
anything
weird how it's
now.
evolved with my weight. Every pound changes my style a little bit. But yeah, no, size and strength matter. Anyone that tells you it doesn't is.
You do any strength and conditioning?
Yeah. I've always been a casual lifter, going through different periods of getting into it and then getting out of it. I currently do have a trainer that I just started working with a couple months ago because I would like to get back into competition shape and get back at it and get out of the ultra heavyweight division. I'm only 6 feet tall and I'm not huge, so ultra is too much. So I'd like to get back into super or to regular heavy.
What's that weight at?
Ultra heavy at the IBJJF I think is 225 and above.
Okay.
And then super heavy is like maybe 215 to 225, something like that.
Okay.
So I would love to get below 215. Getting below 200 is probably not in the cards, but it might be. I wasn't. It's we'll just have to see how it goes.
Yeah.
But,
Is a diet a factor for you? Is something that you?
Yeah, no, I eat pretty well. I work out. I eat well. I do a lot of jiu-jitsu. I'm not like fat. I'm just gotten heavier, and I think it happens as you get older, as you start a family. And one of the things that kind of sucks about owning a jiu-jitsu school is that you're there so much and you're teaching, you're not committed to training in a class, right?
Sure.
So I used to go to jiu-jitsu and have 2 hard hours of being selfish as far as working as hard as I can, just repping out the techniques or whatever. Now I don't do the warm up. Usually I watch and help people if they don't know how to shrimp. I do spar, but I'm always looking over out of the side of my eyes to make sure everybody's safe and things like that. And so it's just a whole different dynamic.
So Mark Vivas has a like a special class, like a black belt invite only and stuff like that. Is that something that you guys do together, or would you attend stuff like that just to kind of get your own training in?
Oh, sure.
Continue?
Yeah. So sometimes brown and black belts in Chicago get together.
Yeah.
We get together on Facebook and get together and train. And I definitely participate when I can, schedule wise. And then, I mean, I have enough high belts at my school to challenge me for sure. It's just a matter of...
But you guys put a class together just for you guys?
No.
No.
No. People have been asking more and more for something like maybe purple belt and above, but I don't know. We already got 20-some classes a week.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot of women's only classes popping up now.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's
they go to
pretty
different
cool.
schools and have like these little special days or whatever.
Did you have that as well?
No, I have lots of girls now, like 15 women or something, or
Nice.
so it's getting bigger. And I'm always happy to host if they want to email each other and say, hey, we're going to Valko this Sunday. Let's get all the girls in Chicago together. They should do that.
Right.
Yeah, I have some pretty good girls that are kind of active in the social scene, so they could organize something like that.
Your girls ranking, they go, do you have any brown, black?
No,
belts?
purple.
Purple? Okay.
Yeah, so white, blue, purple.
And they compete as well?
Yeah. Yep, we got a Pan Am winner and several Chicago Open winners and stuff. Yeah, so we're getting there. I just promoted 4 or 5 more girls to blue belt that are all be making their no-gi debuts at the Open, hopefully. So, yeah.
Now, do you have to register them when you promote them?
Only brown belts and black belts.
Okay, so those are the only ones you have to register. So because I don't even know how that, because I didn't sign up yet. I don't think you can yet for the Chicago Open.
You can now. They
you can now? Okay. So we have to figure that out.
It's easy. You just, it's not easy. Their website's confusing, but you don't have to fill out paperwork and get a signature from your instructor unless you're a brown belt.
Okay.
A lot of blue belts come to me and they're like, oh, it says I have to get your signature. I'm like, no, you did something wrong. It's just the brown and black belts.
Okay. They chose brown. They're like, I don't know what I am.
Yeah, well, why did they require the brown and black belts to get a signature?
Barrier to entry, so not just anyone can enter those divisions, I guess.
Right.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Just proof that you are who you are.
And you can't compete if you're a brown or a black belt. I'm sorry, if you're a blue or a purple belt, you can't try to compete at black or brown.
No, yeah, you have to be in your
Unlike
division.
like Naga and Newbury.
Right.
Like I competed in Naga at expert.
Okay.
Because there was no one in my division at blue. So like, here, just
Right.
go to expert. And I'm like, all right.
Sure.
Thanks. But you can't do that with the IBJJF.
Right. The Federation does a bi belt.
Bi belt only.
Which I like. I think
think
great.
that's cool. Yeah.
I mean, it's cool if you can enter Naga and do the advance and stuff. And sometimes, though, I think the ego gets in the way of a lot of black belts. Like, they're like, oh, Naga's coming up. And they're like, well, I got to fight a bunch of blue and purple belts. They either think it's going to be too easy and a waste of money, or what if they lose and all their students are watching? So it's kind of that might be part of the reason they have these barriers at the federation so that people know they're going.
They're going against your
Well, that's what happened in your match.
Yeah.
And you beat that guy who was had 8 years of experience. What if his students
beat him
were
in like 24 seconds?
What if he had students there, man, and they were watching?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's you want people to be able to prove themselves on the mat, of course, right? So it's like, but if there's always that high risk, low reward, then you just probably get less entrants.
Yeah.
So
and Naga has that reputation of not being able to run an organized tournament.
Although
and stuff.
they did
it better.
This past one was really well. I know there was probably less people because it was end of season, but they were I think a half hour early or hour early.
What I found usually is that if Naga is kids on a different day, it's worth doing. If the kids are the same day, it's usually sucks.
Yeah.
Naga was great in its time.
Yeah.
But now when people tell me they want to compete, I just tell them to do the opens because you want to have a good experience. I've had so many people do couple smaller tournaments, and then they're like, I was waiting around for 8 hours, and then my opponent didn't make weight, but they still let him go against me, and they're like, I don't want to compete anymore.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the Federation got their stuff together, and they run a nice tournament. So, but the problem is Federation for your first, second, third tournament is a little intimidating, right? It's like it's run very well. It's got black belt referees and stuff. So I tell people, like in Chicago, there is the ones you're talking about, the Naga, the New Breed, the grappling thing. And I'm like, if you want some warm-ups, you should do that. But I want you to know that these are often, not always, they're often run like crap. And don't let that put a bad taste in your mouth.
Right.
So, and it's just the way it is. It sucks.
And that's all we've experienced are like the the New Breed, the Submission Challenge, the Nagas. So we haven't even gone. I've never gone to an IBJJF ran event yet, and I'm looking forward to going to the Chicago Open.
Yeah,
it's totally different, huh?
You see what a professional venue looks like. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I did the Pan Am's IBJJF. I don't even think it was called IBJJF back then, but I don't know. 2000 to 2004. I did it 4 years in a row at Blue Belt. It was not run well at that time. So they figured it out and got it together. And you pay for it. It's expensive. But at that time, it's like sucked like all the other tournaments.
That's a 2-day event. Gi and then no gi, right? First
That's
day is
usually
gi.
how they do it. They usually do gi Saturday, white belt gi Sunday, and no gi Sunday. Because you can't do white belt no gi.
What do you mean? You can't?
So for no gi, there's no white belt division. It's just
Oh,
blue
okay.
belt and above.
Oh,
So
okay.
usually with the gi, they have the white belts compete Sunday morning.
Okay, so then the blue, and it goes in that order. Blue go first, purple.
No, not necessarily.
Oh, no.
They mix
Okay.
it up. Yeah,
They do mix it up?
Yeah, and they
Okay.
put the black belts in the middle of the day, which is
Oh, they
nice.
do. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. So there's a method to all their madness,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
that's nice. Interesting.
One thing I did want to ask you about, Jay, was we had Andre Minecco in here
Yep.
a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about how they took him on, Amazon Prime took him on for a show called Patriot, and he was saying that you were on the show as
Yeah,
well.
he's my brother.
Is your brother on the show?
Yeah.
How did that whole thing go down? Like,
It was different for him, but I got an email from a casting agency in Chicago
okay.
asking for Brazilian men because I have a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school. So
Right.
I was like, well, I got no Brazilians, but I got lots of men. If you want some, so just let me know. And they're like, oh, no, thanks. We're looking for Brazilians. Do you know any Brazilians? And I was like, yeah, call Daniel Viena.
Yeah.
So I gave him Daniel's number, and I guess nothing happened with that. But then a month or so went by, and they called me back, and they're like, yeah, we're looking for regular guys now because we can't find enough Brazilians. So they're like, do you have any like big, mean-looking guys? And I was like, yeah, that's me.
You're right.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, and my buddy Nate, who's a personal trainer at High Five, one of my purple belts, was like training with me. I was like, Nate, you want to go with me to this casting call? And he's like, sure. So we went. We read a few lines, and they took some pictures of us, and they cast us on this TV show.
Wow.
So it was me, Nate, Andre Minecco, and then this guy named Vic that we met, who's a cool guy who is an actual aspiring actor. Like he had like an agent that got him the role and all that
Okay.
stuff. None of the rest of us are never ever thought about
So you
being
didn't have any
actors.
headshots made or anything like that?
No, we didn't do anything like that. I mean, I told the agency, I was like, I had a lot of fun and it pays well. If you guys ever need, some guy, let me know.
Will there be a season 2 or? You don't know.
I don't know how it works. So the pilot is on Amazon right now. It's called The Patriot or Patriot.
Oh, it's out.
It's just a pilot.
Okay.
So they put the first episode out in like 2015. Then they got the okay to film the rest of the season, which is what we were on. But they haven't put it out yet. I don't know when it comes out. And
I think he was saying February, I thought.
Yeah, he was saying.
okay,
February.
yeah, he had a bigger role than me, so he
Okay.
would know because he actually can speak Portuguese and he's a
Right.
Brazilian guy.
So you played his brother on the show.
Yeah.
So did you have to do like kind of like a half accent too? Or
yeah, so they had us. It was a disaster. They
can
had
you
this,
give us a little taste of it?
No.
Come on,
They had
Jay.
this, well, actually, yeah, I do remember one line. If I'm butcher it, but "Vocês conseguem andar."
Okay.
Does that sound Portuguese? That was the best I could come
yeah,
up with.
yeah.
That sounds good.
So
What,
they had,
what does it mean?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But they had this woman who was a language expert or whatever, and she was to come in and help us with our lines. But they gave us this whole script of lines and didn't say who was for what. So we're like sitting there trying to remember 20,000 lines, and we only had to remember one sentence
right.
each, but they just didn't tell us. So the next day we meet the director, and he's like, "Okay, so say something," and I'm like, so I spit out some terrible Portuguese, and he's like, "Oh, now say it like you're acting," and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot I'm supposed to I'm doing that." So he had all of us do that, and then Andre did it, and he's like, "Oh, that sounded real good." And so I was like, "Yeah, I speak Portuguese," so he got the the leadership role,
right,
yeah.
So, which is good for him.
So where was it shot mostly?
In Chicago, different parts of
Yeah,
Chicago, and
yeah.
out in Joliet, they have some big theater there or something. So I've never done any acting or whatever, but it was cool. We were on set, we were with the actors, and got to learn how it all works. I'm always curious about the process of how these things are done, and now when I watch TV, I watch it a little bit different.
Yeah.
Just like when you
absolutely.
do jiu-jitsu and you watch UFC, you watch it different than when you didn't know do
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu.
exactly. For sure.
Yeah.
So on the show, you guys are like a jiu-jitsu family, right? Like
Well,
the brothers.
We're a Brazilian family.
A Brazilian,
and
okay.
they say we might know some jiu-jitsu. Like, it's like, be careful with those Brazilians. They know jiu-jitsu and shit, but I didn't have to do any jiu-jitsu or anything.
Right,
I'm
right.
just there to stare people down and try to look mean.
I got
Did you have the beard and everything?
No, I had to shave my head and my face. So I was
you had to shave your head?
completely bald. Yeah. I usually am walking around like a chia pet, but everything was shaved off.
Did you have to like get a tan to look more Brazilian?
No, surprisingly not. But Andre's not very
Right.
tan, so
Yeah.
I think it worked out okay. But we all had to shave our heads and shave our faces, and then Andre and Nate both have full sleeve tattoos, and they had to cover it and make it look like skin. So,
Oh, really?
so,
What did they
yeah.
cover that? How did they do that?
I'd make
Oh,
them
you
look
didn't
up.
see that. You didn't see the process.
No, I did. Yeah, they did spray and powder and spent an hour on it, and then their arms looked like normal arms.
Oh,
It was
really?
crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was definitely a fun experience. I mean, if any producers happen to listen to this and are looking to hire someone, I would do it again.
Right.
But would you like to do a little more jujitsu, or
Oh, of course, yeah.
in a role?
Of course, sure.
That'd be
Why
fun,
wouldn't I?
huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to do choreograph the fights.
Right,
I'd
right.
do anything. Yeah.
I know that back in the day, Dan Inosanto, you know who Dan Inosanto
know who
is?
that is.
So he's like Bruce Lee's ambassador. You know, he's the guy who took over Jeet Kune Do
Okay.
after Bruce Lee. He choreographed some fight scenes for Steven Seagal,
Okay.
actually in Out for Justice. He choreographed, and he was actually in the movie. He was Styx, the guy named Styx, and they actually did, Kali in the scene.
Uh-huh.
And watching that, knowing Kali, I'm like, oh man, that's just heaven and earth.
Yeah.
Like, it's so simple what he's doing, but it looks like so badass.
I still like watching Steven Seagal fight scenes. I
Yeah.
still think they're cool.
They're choreographed really well.
Yeah, I think the Van Damme ones and stuff all look hokey, but I think
Yeah.
the Steven
Oh,
Seagal
for
ones
sure.
look badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely more realistic. I mean, except when guys are taking their time, like throwing a punch. Like there's 7 guys and they all just go at him one at a time. Like that's
Right,
a
right.
little unrealistic,
But
but
it's still, yeah.
it's still fun to see him use their energy against him. Flip him and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah, it's always
Yeah,
fun.
I mean, to go full circle back to Aikido, that's one thing about Aikido is that it is beautiful to watch,
Yeah.
but it is choreographed. you
Right,
know?
right,
But
yeah.
it looks awesome when they're doing all
Did
that.
you see Steven Seagal in Russia? Was it in Russia where he was just throwing people and this whole
Was that before or after he was teaching Anderson Silva how to fight?
Well, there was one of him from the 80s that was actually pretty cool. It's like on an old VHS thing. I think
yeah?
I don't know if you can find it on YouTube. The newer ones look ridiculous, but there was one when he was a young man that looked
Yeah.
pretty cool. So
Yeah, he's he's an interesting guy. From back in the '80s when he was doing those movies, and then how he just grew, physically grew. He just, I'm like, what did you do? What happened?
Yeah.
What goes on where you're just just gonna let it go? That's it.
What grapplers are you into? Who do you follow? Who do you like to watch?
no one really.
No one, yeah.
I mean, I love watching Damian Maia fight. Of
Yeah.
course, he's beautiful jiu-jitsu. He knows how to do it for MMA. I mean, who doesn't like to watch him? Jacare in his MMA or his jiu-jitsu matches, I think is
Yeah.
the funnest guy to watch. But all the new, I don't keep track of the drama with Dylan Dennis or whatever.
Yeah,
And I don't follow any of that crap.
No.
No, I'm not in any of that. I think some of the new instructionals are awesome. Every so often in my Facebook, the Keaton Cornelius stuff shows up, and he's really innovative and got really good stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't go out of my way to seek it out. But when it shows up, I watch it and enjoy it. But no, I'm not steeped into all that stuff.
I've been watching a ton of Rafa Mendes.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's clips online where it's highlights and stuff, and he was doing this one pass, and I swear to God, I rewinded it on YouTube 10 times, and I think I almost have an idea of what he's doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to watch a lot of that as well.
He's amazing, man. He's probably my favorite guy right now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good guy. You know, today is Marcelo Garcia's birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He's probably listening, so happy birthday, Marcelo.
Happy birthday, Marcelo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though this episode drops next week, but it's still.
You guys do 1 week to put it out usually?
Yeah, so Tuesdays we drop new episodes every Tuesday.
Okay.
And we always like to have one in the can just because, life happens and
For
just
sure.
in case. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Jay's next one to drop.
right.
Yeah.
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 We're always a week ahead usually.
Okay.
So.
You're going to run out of instructors pretty soon.
No. We realized,
No.
like, Paul initially was like, hey, I don't know if we're going to be able to get through one, but you double people up. I'm like, dude, relax, it's okay. And then now all of a sudden he's got like, what, 50, 60? 60,
I got
Really?
60 lined up.
Local black
local.
belts? Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not only local black belts. I mean, it's not only black belts, rather, but, there's
local jiu-jitsu
there's local
guys.
jiu-jitsu artists.
Okay.
I mean, the things that showcase the Midwest, and there's
Yeah.
not enough out there. You have California, everyone's, doing that.
Dude, Midwest is so underrated.
It is.
Whenever my guys or guys from the other schools around here go to Pans and Worlds, they do great.
Yeah.
I have several Pan winners. I have a few Mundial winners, and we're just sending small, 2-3 guys, if even. And it's not. All the best jiu-jitsu isn't just in California, New York,
Right.
and whatever. There's the Midwest has plenty of it. So it's good you guys are giving like a platform to hear some people talk
For
about
sure.
it.
And I book all the guests, and when a guest comes in, almost all of them give me like 3 more names. They're like, dude, you know who you got to have? You got to get this guy on, blah, blah.
Okay,
They're like,
Yeah,
make my job pretty easy.
Right, yeah. And I mean, we have that mat that, we have all the guests sign, and I know that thing's going to get filled up pretty quick. It's going to be nice. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Do you have any sponsors or anything like that for your
No,
team?
I don't really compete very much anymore.
Okay.
I did the Nogi Worlds in 2015, so I took all of 16 off, which I would prefer never to take a year off. I would like to do at least one tournament a year or something. But just the place I am in my life right now, teaching so often and raising my kids, it's just not a priority for me. But I would still like to get in there and mix it up at least once a year. At least one big Nogi tournament is the goal. But no, I'm not seeking out sponsors or anything. If somebody wants to approach me, I'll put their banner up in my school if they want to give me stuff or whatever. But it's yeah.
All right. Well, this has been great, man.
And
I'm
your
really glad
gym
you-
is located at
820 North Orleans. It's like I said, it's inside High Five Fitness, right at the corner of Chicago Orleans, inside a gym. And what's nice about being inside the gym is the showers, the locker rooms, the music, the air conditioning, the heater. There's a lot of high energy, a lot of motivated people working out, nice looking people walking around. It's a really good setup. I'm very happy there.
Well, thanks for coming. And social media wise, where can people find you?
God. Well, I'm on Facebook, but I don't want a million Facebook friend requests. I don't know. I have a YouTube channel. I try to put out a instructional every week or something. So just Valko BJJ on YouTube would probably be the best.
And
way.
Instagram as well?
I am on Instagram. I haven't decided how I'm using that. One of my students set it up for me.
Okay.
And then I've been adding pictures, and it's been half jiu-jitsu, half like my family, and I'm like, what do I want to do with this?
Right,
thing?
right, yeah.
So I mean, really, people. We have a school Facebook page, Valko BJJ Chicago, and my YouTube, and if they don't want to be all up super close with me, they can go to those two things.
What time is your open mat on Saturday?
Saturday, 11:15 to 1. We have open mat. It's a real big open mat. A lot of people from a lot of schools come by.
Yeah.
A lot of visiting black belts. We usually have like anywhere from 40 to 60 people on the mat.
Wow.
So it's nice. Yeah, and we've been doing the open mat for 10 years since I've been open. Every Saturday open mat. Open mats have gotten more popular over the years, but I think we were one of the first to really embrace it and make it a thing.
Wow.
And it's my favorite training day.
Great. Well, Jay, thanks for coming in,
Thanks
man.
a lot.
We appreciate you
Thanks for
coming
having
on.
me, guys. Good talking to you.
All right. Thanks, man. We'll see you guys later. Bye. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Grappler Union. Siri, how can our listeners find out more info?
For more information about Grappler Union, you can visit them on the web at grapplerunion.com or follow them on Instagram and on Twitter at Grappler Union. Like them on Facebook at facebook.com/Grappler Union. Also be sure to subscribe on iTunes. All episodes are available on the Grappler Union YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe. Anthony, I really enjoyed the podcast. Can't wait to hear the next one.
Thanks, Siri.